Sir, Anuj sir, shall we start? Pranam Gurudev.
नमस्कार।
गुरुदेव कैसे हैं आप?
बढ़िया, बहुत अच्छा, वेरी गुड।
गुरुजी प्रणाम।
नमस्कार।
गुरुदेव हमारे साथ
मैं
हैं
डॉक्टर अनुज माहेश्वरी, अमेरिकन कॉलेज ऑफ फिजिशियन इंडिया चैप्टर का गवर्नर हूँ। एंड हमारे साथ डॉक्टर त्रिपाठी जी हैं, डॉक्टर कमलाकर त्रिपाठी, प्रोफेसर ऑफ मेडिसिन एट बनारस हिंदू यूनिवर्सिटी वाराणसी। डॉक्टर नरसिंह वर्मा इज प्रोफेसर इन ह्यूमन फिजियोलॉजी एट किंग जॉर्ज मेडिकल यूनिवर्सिटी एट लखनऊ। तो ये दोनों मेडिकल एक्सपर्ट हैं और हम लोग एसीपी से हैं। तो it is very good that you gave us today time, and we are really feeling very honored that you are with us, and lot of people in the ACP are really happy. Yeah, okay. So should I make it? Welcome you all. Myself, Dr. Anuj Maheshwari, Governor, American College of Physicians, India chapter. Myself, practicing physician and diabetologist at Lucknow, as well as I am professor of medicine at Babu Banarsi Das University at Lucknow. With this small introduction of mine, I welcome you all on the forum of American College of Physicians, India chapter, which has joined today with Art of Living. And we are lucky enough that Gurudev Shri Shri Ravi Shankar ji is with us, and we shall be talking about multiple aspects of the yoga which can be associated with the modern medicine, with the methods of the treatment, as well as art of living. Also, we shall be talking about role of yoga in the prevention of diseases, as well as therapeutic yoga, which can help us in the treatment of diseases also. So there are a number of things with which we shall be talking. Shri Shri Ravi Shankar ji. Before going forward, I must introduce my colleague, Dr. Amit Gupta, who is a member advisory board of American College of Physicians India chapter, and he is looking after the responsibility of the early career physician. He is also very versatile member of the American College of Physicians, as well as he is very prominent clinician in the Noida, a part of the Uttar Pradesh in the NCR. Apart from Dr. Amit Gupta, we have got the two panelists. These two panelists shall be putting up the side of modern medicine. For that purpose, we are having with us Dr. Kamlakar Tripathi, who is Professor Emeritus at Banaras Hindu University, Varanasi. He has been very prominent physician. He has written a number of papers, as well as he has given number of concepts of the medicine. He is well known for his intellect in word as well as Indian fraternity. He is the person who is a nephrologist, but he is much more known in the medicine about his ideas and skills what he has developed to teach his students. Dr. Narsingh Verma. Dr. Narsingh Verma is a very well-known face for the American College of Physicians. He is secretary also of American College of Physicians India chapter. Apart from that, he is professor of human physiology. Especially, he is looking after the clinical part of the human physiology. And at King George Medical University, Lucknow, I am also post-graduated from the same institution, and it has its own very strong academic background. It is more than 100-year-old institution. Dr. Narsingh Verma is known for his academic intellect. He has been honored with the honorary FRCP by the London Royal College of Physicians. So he is a person who knows very well about the human physiology, and he shall be putting up the side of the human physiology for the modern medicine. So we shall be going with this small introduction of our panelist for the introduction of Shri Shri Ravi Shankar ji, Gurudev. I don't think anybody needs any introduction for him. Across the world, people know him very well. But also, just for a customary, I will request the ashram people to run the film, which gives a glimpse of Gurudev about his personality and about his intellect, about his vision of promoting yoga. So over to the people of the ashram who can give us the film which will help us in giving the introduction of Gurudev.
A young boy was found in deep meditation in a quaint village in South India known as Ravi Shankar. He would say, "I have family everywhere. People are waiting for me." He astonished his teachers by reciting the Bhagavad Gita at a tender age of 4. With his education in Vedic literature and physics and his deep and profound knowledge of the spiritual world, he became one of the most prominent sages of the modern world. All through his life, he has been reviving ancient knowledge and creating tools and techniques that have benefited millions across the globe in living a deeper and a more joyous life. In 1981, the Art of Living was established by Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. Nurtured by his care and contribution, the Art of Living has rapidly grown across 156 countries, reaching over 450 million people.
More people are searching harder for inner peace these days. Would you agree?
Correct.
One of Gurudev's most unique offerings to the world is the Sudarshan Kriya, a powerful breathing technique that facilitates physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being. He has designed 57 exclusive courses that empower individuals and cater to the needs of a wide spectrum of institutions in the society. Back then, Gurudev started the Art of Living service projects by taking responsibility of reviving a sinking school which had no funds. Today, his intention has manifested in over 702 free schools, which provides education and food to more than 80,000 children in rural and tribal parts of India. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Art of Living Foundation pioneered the I Stand With Humanity initiative, providing more than 80 million meals to the daily wage earners in over 170 cities across India. The service initiative during the pandemic included the distribution of 6,000 tons of food to 5 million families. It helped set up 7 COVID care hospitals and provided with over 200,000 PPE kits. Trauma relief programs were also conducted for more than 1 million migrant laborers and COVID warriors to bring mental relief. To combat the fear, stress, and anxiety during such times, Gurudev launched the World Meditates campaign and also personally conducted online guided meditations twice daily, touching the lives of millions by bringing solace and keeping the hope alive. From childhood, Gurudev had immense faith in the principle of non-violence. With escalating violence and conflict in the world, Gurudev has brought peace in situations where war seemed like the only solution. Thousands of militants and Naxalites laid down their weapons and chose meditation in the northeast and other parts of India.
এই সংগ্ৰামখনত আমি সফল হ'ব নোৱাৰিলোঁ। লাষ্টত গম পালোঁ যে হস্ত সংগ্ৰামৰ জৰিয়তে আমি জাতীয় মুক্তি সংগ্ৰামত জয়ী হ'ব নোৱাৰিম।
His efforts include bringing an end to a 52-year-old fierce conflict between the FARC and the Colombian government.
Ojalá podamos los colombianos abrazar pronto el principio gandiano de la no violencia. Coincidimos con el maestro Shankar.
Gurudev has visited Iraq several times and addressed peace conferences to bring respite to the nation and its citizens. He has hosted a series of trust-enhancing interventions in Jammu and Kashmir, providing all the stakeholders to voice their opinions in an effort to restore peace in the valley.
I was named Muhammad, but after becoming a militant, I was called Khalid. We had been taught to operate guns, arms, and train other youths. But now, after doing the Art of Living course and meeting Sri Sri, we realized we had chosen the wrong path. We now want to spread love, and non-violence in Kashmir.
Gurudev's programs have impacted people involved in armed conflicts across the world, making him a global ambassador of peace.
We gather today in this wonderful occasion of tolerance, blessed by our Master of Love.
Gurudev strongly believes that behind every culprit there is a victim crying for help. The Art of Living prison program is helping to rehabilitate the prisoners. It has reached out to over 800,000 prisoners globally and has brought immense transformation in their lives.
I used to actually look forward to fights. But now since doing this course, I'm a total different person. I can now walk away from a fight.
I don't think any human being is totally bad. If he's bad, it's only his understanding, his behavior, his actions. But there is a good side to him. I only see that.
The Art of Living's Welcome Home Troops project has transformed lives and brought veterans out of aggression and depression. 94% of these veterans who were suffering from the unseen wounds of war reported peace of mind and reduced stress and anxiety levels. The Art of Living has also been working towards the betterment of the environment. 48 rivers and thousands of water bodies in India have been revived. Conducted more than 100,000 cleanliness drives. Planted over 81 million trees in 36 countries. More than 2.2 million farmers have been trained to adopt natural farming till date. Gurudev found the Shri Shri Rural Development Program Trust to empower rural India. Volunteers have developed thousands of model villages across India, providing solar energy to over 90,000 individuals under Light a Home project. Gurudev's vast global network of volunteers is well known for mobilizing trauma and disaster relief for the affected populations around the world. In a world torn apart by religious, social, national and cultural divides, Gurudev's vision is to see the whole world as one family. The World Culture Festival. The festival brought together over 3.75 million people from 155 countries with spectacular performances on a breathtaking 7-acre stage equivalent to 6 football fields by 36,602 dancers and musicians from around the globe, celebrating the diversity of all faiths and cultures. The Art of Living has hosted historic events leading to multiple Guinness World Records.
If you can have a mind of a scientist and a spiritual force of His Holiness Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji gives, then we have a beautiful world and happy world and prosperous world.
And organizing a meeting no politician on earth could ever dream of.
The Art of Living Foundation. For 25 years it worked on programs promoting peace, combating violence and drug addiction, empowering our youth. It has an incredible following that cuts through all religions, cultures, and backgrounds. A very, very difficult thing to do in today's world.
Gurudev has been conferred with numerous awards around the globe, including the highest civilian award of Colombia, Mongolia, and Paraguay. The Padma Vibhushan, one of India's highest civilian award, and 23 honorary doctorates globally. His vision for the world is to see a smile on every face and create a stress.
Sir, you are muted.
With this introduction of Gurudev, I must acknowledge here that we are being watched out of India also. Many chapters of the American College of Physicians are watching this program. So for their benefits also many people, those who are in India are beginner about the yoga. They don't know much about the yoga. My first question will be to respected Gurudev. You tell us please, what is yoga? Is it just getting into the various body postures, getting into the breathing exercises, what a common man understand, a sophisticated way of doing the exercises, or little more than that, or much more than that? Guruji.
Yes. Let me first acknowledge that the American chapter of physicians, American College of Physicians, you are doing such a wonderful work. I must here really command the work of all the physicians. In this COVID crisis, they put their life under risk and stood for humanity and serving humanity ceaselessly. So American College of Physicians is one of the most reputed colleges I know, and you have branches in 12 countries and 85 chapters around the world. And you are doing wonderful service, great service to the society. So the frontline workers and healthcare workers, and especially physicians, need to be acknowledged at this moment on this day of International Yoga. The day of International Yoga is very significant in the sense today the modern science has shaken hands with the ancient science. Yoga itself is a science. If you have ever gone through the founder of yoga, Maharshi Patanjali, he has enunciated yogas as formulas. And these formulas are time-tested truths about life. First of all, he says, what is yoga? The definition of yoga is abiding in the nature of the seer. You know, from the scenery, we are absorbed in the scenery through our 5 senses in our day-to-day activity. But when the mind retrieves from the scenery and abides in the seer, that is the real yoga. And for this, as a means to achieve this, he enunciated 8 limbs for it. And these 8 limbs are asana, pranayama, and non-violence, and cleanliness, contentment. These are all part of yoga. So yoga is union of the individual consciousness with the universal consciousness, we can say. And then yoga is the rhythm of body, mind, and breath in harmony. See, we have rhythm in our system, like we say in the scientific term, biorhythms. We get hunger at particular time, we are thirsty at particular time, we go for nature calls and we sleep. So our life moves in certain rhythm, isn't it? Recently there was a Nobel Prize was confirmed on a scientist who talked about the rhythm in the body, how the biorhythm in the system, you know, resonates with everything around. See, and how the biorhythm responds for treatments of a patient even. So yoga is all about the rhythm. There is a rhythm in the universe. Seasons come in time, and there are particular rhythm of the season. Then there is rhythm in our body. Then there is a rhythm in our breath. And there is a rhythm in our thought process as well as in our emotional patterns. Yoga is that recognizes and brings harmony in all these different rhythms of our existence. Yeah, so bringing body, mind, and breath in rhythm, you can call as yoga.
Excellent, Gurudev. Gurudev, I would just like to ask you, is it yoga just a mantra for fitness, or it can help in treatment of the diseases also?
In many researches, I mean, there are a number of research have happened, research papers have been published in the international journals. We have seen that the cortisol levels go down when you do yoga and pranayamas. This is there. And also, yoga stimulates vagus nerve in the body. This is also has been established today. Then meta-analysis shows that pranayama strengthens lung recovery, and the energy level in a person, the immune system also gets strengthened when people do yoga. So it boosts the immune system. It it makes one get into a wellness, a happy mood. If a mind is strong, you see, then the healing happens faster. That's what I believe.
Thank you, Gurudev. Gurudev, I would also like to ask you that we are living in an era where often the negativity gets more attention than the positivity, and same is happening with the modern medicine and the other streams. So, Gurudev, do you think modern medicine and yoga, they are exclusive of each other, or if not, then what unites the modern medicine with the yoga?
No. You see, yoga does not contradict modern medicine. In the sense, it does not say, no, you should not take modern medicine. Absolutely wrong. You see, yoga is very open. It has anyone with any prejudice know that they are not yogis. Yoga means which welcomes innovation, which has open-mindedness, and which can be put to test. You see, no knowledge can be accepted unless it goes through vigorous test. And yoga always offered itself to the scientific analysis and vigorous test and scrutiny in that sense. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. I would like to ask you, what is the spiritual connection of yoga?
See, we are all human beings, and we have two aspects. One is one is matter, another is spirit. Our body is from materials, this amino acid, protein, carbohydrate, vitamins, minerals, all this. And our consciousness, our mind is of compassion, love, awareness, alertness, intelligence, and a lot of those qualities. These two things make us human beings. We are not just only matter, nor we are not only spirit. We are a combination of matter and spirit. Spirituality is knowing about the subject. What is this is science. Who am I is spirituality. Subjective knowledge is spirituality. Objective analysis is material science. And they go hand in hand together. In this country, in India especially, never there was a conflict in the past between scientists and Vedantins or spiritual people, because we always said, accept only that which goes through the test of the intellect, test of reasoning, test of tarka or logic. So, in this sense, spirituality is enhancing happiness, bringing the compassion, having that feeling of togetherness with everybody, and sharpness of mind, intelligence, and appreciating beauty. All this is part of spirituality. Peace, deep inner peace. If you have deep peace, that is spirituality. If you are compassionate, that is spirituality. And yoga definitely enhances these values. Yeah.
Now I'm going to ask you a very important question for the Indian perspective as well as rest of the world also. Many people think that yoga is a religious practice and it belongs to a particular religion. Is it really like so? Because it is one of the biggest hindrance that to accept many people the yoga as a way of life.
I think it is sheer ignorance. Though yoga is born in this country where The religion is called the way of life. It is not even called a religion, but it is called a way of life, the Vedic way of life. In this sense, lifestyle, food, music, everything belongs to has origin in a particular tradition. Now, if someone says modern medicine is coming from West, so if you brand it as Christian, this medicine is Christian, then they will be doing a big blunder. Similarly, if they think yoga is Hindu or only Hindus for Hindus, then that is a mistaken notion. Same way with any medicine, say Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, allopathy, homeopathy, naturopathy. Naturopathy was born here. So all these systems, though they have origin in some religion, they don't bind you to any religion. They are open to scrutiny, examination, and whatever is acceptable for the scientific temper, that only we must accept. And that is a property of the entire planet. You can't say this belongs to a particular religion. In fact, I would say, people eat Chinese food. If you eat Chinese food, you don't become a Chinese. If you eat Danish cookies, you don't become Danish person, right? We accept food from everywhere. We accept music from everywhere. And we accept clothes and other things from everywhere in the world. So when it comes to yoga, if you think it is a particular religion, then they are into big loss. The benefits and wellness of yoga is beyond boundaries, beyond belief system. Believe me that.
Rightly said, Gurudev. Gurudev, I would just like to ask you that today we are living in an era where the COVID-19 pandemic is there. There is a lot of fear, and we are often talking about the humility and the other aspects. So, in such a scenario, is yoga it becomes a choice or it becomes a necessity? Gurudev, my question is that is yoga a choice or is it a necessity?
Is yoga a choice or what?
Or necessity.
Necessity. Yoga helps us in lymphatic drainage. When we do the stretches, the circulation in the body becomes better. Our lung capacity increases. So our breathing becomes better. And generally our energy level gets a big boost. So at this time, when there is anxiety, there is uncertainty, you need a lot of mental strength. I tell you, yoga gives you that mental strength. So in this time of COVID, it is pertinent to practice yoga. So it boosts your inner strength. It increases our intuitive ability. See, as physicians, you all know, you need to rely a lot on your intuition. You need to know at what time, what to do and what to administer. Sometimes your intuition plays a very big role. And I tell you, meditation and yoga helps you to get that intuitive ability, number one. Second, wear and tear on our brain, wear and tear on the stress that can cause so much wear and tear on our system. And meditation and yoga, breathing can really rejuvenate and help us get out of stress. And this pandemic time, stress is the biggest challenge we all face. You all know that, right?
Gurudev, obesity is another very important lifestyle disease, which is prevalent all across the globe. So can yoga help in losing weight also?
It depends on what you eat after doing yoga. You may do yoga and you keep having lots of carbs and, no limit on your upper limit of your food. In yogis, you usually say you should eat only as much your arms can hold, because your tummy should be only of that size. But if you don't consider the height of it and you just go on it consuming more food than what you need, I don't think yoga will also reduce obesity. No.
Thank you, Guruji. You very rightly explained us that obesity is a thing which needs your food habits to be under control. And very rightly it has been explained to all our people. Very important question comes in my mind. You have very rightly explained us about the Ashtanga Yoga in the beginning of the talk. But there are multiple kinds of the yoga. People talk about Hatha Yoga, Vinyas Yoga, Kundalini Yoga now is very much talked and very much popular among the people. These are the various kinds of the yoga. Apart from that, some of the people are doing commercial forms of the yoga also, like power yoga, water yoga. So what are these things? Could you put up some light?
40 years back when we started, hardly people were willing to take to yoga. That's why I call it the art of living. So it says how to keep a smile on, how to keep your energy high. In these captions we started. Today, when yoga has become so popular, more than 2 billion people across the world are doing, some people find it is very commercially interesting thing. So tweak something here and there and do something and come up with some crazy ideas and try to distort yoga for commercial use. This is happening, but it's happening in small scale, though it shouldn't be happening that way. But I would say yoga is open to experiments, but unscientific ways of propagating yoga or doing it with some ignorance, not mastering something and just out of ignorance, half-baked knowledge is really too dangerous. With these many yogas, of course, there are many different yogas. Hatha yoga is there, Raj yoga is there, Kundalini yoga. See, Kundalini is being blown all out of proportion. It's not been scientifically understood. Kunda means the pot. Kundalini, our body is like a pot. Kundalini is that energy in our body. And it is attending to the energy, how the energy at different parts of our body is connected to different sensations and different emotions. The link between emotions, the rhythm in our body and endocrine system is what all Kundalini is about. And if we scientifically explain Kundalini force, you can understand so much more. It makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, it can lead you into some sort of superstition as well. So we must keep superstition away from yoga. And for that, we have to be very authentic about yoga. First, one is the main books, main scriptures we must take, and then the experienced people who have experienced, who have gone through all the stages and graduated in that, they would be able to do it better than any Tom, Dick and Harry would say, okay, I am inventing some yoga of my own. That won't be so beneficial to people. It can have some entertainment value, but from a scientific point of view, I think it's not the right thing. It's like, a physician just being a compounder in a hospital, start acting like a doctor himself, will create more problem to people than doing any good. This used to happen in our country before. These LNPs or doctors they were acting as they started acting like a physician later on. They were compounders who are mixing the medicine in the pharmacy. So same thing in the field of yoga also. A lot of distortions are also there. That's why we need to keep it very pure, and scientific temper must not be foregone when you go into the mystic and ethereal aspect of yoga.
I think it is
How
our
can it be
duty.
helpful in the COVID times?
Yes, it has helped millions around the globe. Millions. You know, I have myself conducted classes for thousands of, tens and thousands of physicians and frontline workers, right from South America to Japan. See, because physicians were under tremendous stress at this time. You know, one doctor told me, Gurudev, for the first time, we had to worry about ourselves. Before, we never used to think about ourselves when we want to go and treat patients. In this pandemic, for the first time in our career, we had to think about ourselves and our family before we could go into the pandemic. So there is tremendous pressure before the vaccine was announced, and of course, we were grappling with the pandemic, not knowing what to do, what treatment to give. I'm talking about in the month of May and June last year, April, May, June, these months were very tough for physicians. At this time, I started giving meditations and online classes, and millions took it, and they were so happy with that. Number one, it gives you inner strength to handle the situation. Number two, it helps you to be more alert and more energetic when you need the most. And the third thing is, general boosting of energy and immune system happens during these programs. Yeah.
Gurudev, modern medicine is often looked upon with suspicion for the side effects of its medicine and various other things, while alternative medicine has an inherent faith that they are free of any side effects. So may I ask you, what are the side effects of yoga?
Side effects of yoga. Well, you cannot go into fight very easily, perhaps. You don't lose your temper so soon, so fast. This could be one side effect, that you may lose, you may not lose your temper. You may be very calm and cool and steady, taking any step in life. That is one side effect, I would say, that you cannot be violent. Violent. If you are violent, if you have violent tendencies, I'm sure you are not doing yoga properly. So yogis can never be violent. Yeah, but they'll be very dynamic. You can be very dynamic. It doesn't mean when you do yoga, you become sloppy and, lethargic. That is not there. And another side effect is that, you'll be so fast and you'll find it hard to take everyone along with you, because you'll find people are much slower in grasping and in acting compared to yourself. Yeah.
One thing very importantly comes in the mind about the meditation. In our Western friends, many of the times they use the words mindfulness. Is there any difference between mindfulness and meditation?
See, mindfulness is just the balcony of the house. Meditation is the real house. It's just the portico, it's the driveway. I always say mindfulness is the driveway. We talk so much about the driveway, but you can't stay in the driveway for too long. You have to go into the house. And that is meditation. Meditation is which gives you inner comfort. Mindfulness keeps you alert for some time. But meditation is that which gives you deep rest and keeps you awake and alert as well, and gives you the strength that you need from within. Yeah.
Thank you. Before we say thanks to Gurudev, I will request both the panelists, Dr. Kamalakar Tripathi and Dr. Narsingh Verma, if you have any question in your mind to ask with Gurudev, kindly you can ask. Dr. Tripathi and Dr. Narasimha. Namaskar.
Namaskar, Tripathi ji.
We physician often patient come to us with lot of disabilities, especially the infirm people, the older people. They have a joint pain, they have a shoulder pain, they have a pain in the neck, and then they wish to adopt certain posture and go for yoga. What you suggest? Should they be screened before for any chronic medical illness? Or sometime it can precipitate, like cervical spondylosis, they are doing particular posture, overextension of the neck, overextension of the joint, in a person who already suffering with osteoarthritis. These are some limitation for us to prescribe them yogic practice.
Through Ayush Ministry, when we have done this yoga protocol, we have kept in mind all this, and even yoga certification that we are doing through the Ministry of Ayush. What we have done is we have categorized yoga in several. There is therapeutic yoga we have. So we train people thoroughly, and these teachers also have several hours of anatomy lesson with them. So they learn anatomy, they learn about the muscles, they learn about the nervous system. See the 7 systems that yoga impacts: the circulation system, breathing system, respiratory system, nervous system, all this endocrine system. So we give them a overall idea about, there are 300 hours yoga teachers training. In this, we train them. One is for people who are just normal people, we can train them to give them some classes. And then special need people like who has some physical ailments, how yoga can help in therapeutic level. For that, we have separate graduation for them. It's the 4th level. And once they are graduated, only then we give them certificate to treat patients like that. They know. Then they do treat, and we have found a lot of people getting benefit out of it. First of all, when the vagus nerve is stimulated, they find a lot of energy in them. Then slowly, with proper diet, we of course give them diet also. What would be a good diet to take, with what type of ailments they have, and yoga. So there are specialization for these things. Yes.
Thank you.
And in the normal course of yoga also, we caution people. If you have blood pressure, don't do bandhas, don't do kumbhak, and heart patients, we don't allow them to do certain exercises. So health wise, we first see them, what is that their body needs and how their body can take or adapt. And you have to do it very gradually, systematically. And if they don't do it properly according to the Shastras, they will end up, having more trouble. This is also possible. Yeah.
In Ayurveda, there is a Panchkarma.
Yeah.
And how this, so during the process of Panchkarma, and if person opts for yogic exercise, can we amalgamate it? Can we prescribe it? Can we ask them to have a Panchakarma? Because Panchakarma is especially for the Sandhigatvat, for some element, and has been in the tradition of practice of Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Do you think they can be combined together?
Yeah. Of course, we do it here in our Bangalore center. We have Panchakarma and we also do yoga. Yes. And again, here there will be personal supervision of the doctor, Ayurvedic doctor and a yoga instructor together. So they will see how the patient is able to take, how much they can take. Even Panchakarma, there are grades, how much to be given, how many days. A healthy person's doing a Panchakarma for cleansing, liver detoxing and, like cleansing is much different from people with some history of ailments. So for them, it's seen differently. First, we take the nadi, pulses are taken, and then accordingly, their diagnosis is being done. Then the treatments are given. Yes.
Thank you.
Gurudev, wanted to know from you that in yoga, asanas and postures are the part and parcel of the yoga. And nowadays we see that a large camp is organized and yoga trainers, one is asking a huge camp and crowd to do yoga. Whether you think that this is possible to learn yoga in crowd?
Not for therapy, not for cure. This could be done as an exercise. Yes, in a school, like you do the drills and physical exercise in school. So in schools, large number of students gather and they can be taught postures of yoga postures. Pranayama could be taught. Yeah, this could be done. There is no problem in it. Again, here, the teacher will have to take caution and cannot just go on demonstrating or doing things which everybody cannot do or should not be done. So what could be demonstrated and what could be taught in a mass gathering is basics. Basic could be done. But if someone tries to teach them something there and then they do it and then they get into, we get many such people cases, their neck is sprained, the tummy is not working, leg spraining. These sort of cases also will get generated in that. If personal attention is not there. I would say always, even though we have some big camps, we always have one teacher for every 50 people. So the teacher will go around and supervise if they're doing it correctly or not. And sometimes people see only in the television and do it. I wouldn't recommend them. It's like self-medication, people taking their own self-medication. So it's always better to have an instructor and correct our postures and help us to go through both yoga, pranayam and meditation. Yeah.
Thank you, Gurudev. It really doesn't look like that this session should ever end, and we are really enjoying it, and so much divinity is here that we wish that it should continue like that, and we keep on talking to you for hours and hours. But always there is a limitation of the time, and we have to discuss other aspects to our rest of the two panelists. So we are very, very much grateful and thankful to you. American College of the Physician India chapter is grateful to you that you came on our forum and given your advice, given your best of knowledge to us, so that we could be able to be more better physician in coming days. So with these words, I would like to pay my sincere regards and thanks to you. Amit, would you like to say something?
Gurudev, thank you for accepting our invitation and enlightening us on this very, very important aspect of modern medicine and yoga. And we know that today you are very, very busy and you have multiple tasks ahead of you, and you are addressing many gatherings today. We are very grateful to you to oblige us. Thank you.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful being with you all and dwelling on all these questions and this knowledge. It's a pleasure for me to do that. And I would also like you all to encourage to take up research on yoga and its impact on various other ailments. Though a lot of research has happened in the West, India also has done quite a bit of research work in this. I would like many more physicians to take up the research and clear any prejudice or bias that might be luring around in the corner. So with these words, wonderful, all the best to all of you. May God bless you. May God bless you. Blessings to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So
now we should start our second part of our session, that is with Professor Kamalakar Tripathi and Professor Narsingh Verma. So as Guruji has said in the last, we should start from there only somewhere, that we are really lacking the data, and across the world many people says that although yoga is recommended, but we are having the weak level of evidences. So now the question arises, who will generate the evidences? Of course, this is our duty to generate the evidences, to prepare the research projects on the yoga, so that more and more data can be generated. Now, for about modern medicine, many of the times people says that modern medicine is having a lot of side effects. Modern medicine is having a lot of problems, and lot of adversities are coming up while doing the treatment. But we must never forget, when our country has got the independence, our average life expectancy was 39 years, and now it is 69 years. The contribution is biggest from the modern medicine only. So we should never forget this fact whenever we say something adverse about the modern medicine. My first question to Dr. Narsingh Verma. Sir, is there any link between modern medicine and yoga? Can we really connect these two things together? Over to Professor Verma.
Very good question, Professor Maheshwari. Definitely, there's a link between the modern medicine and yoga. And because of that, if you go through the various guidelines for the various chronic diseases and also the guidelines for the ailment and treatment, you will find a reference to yoga, whether it's hypertension, diabetes, and some psychiatric element. You will find some reference to yoga, and even the various researchers have found that yoga has something in it, and it is becoming useful as a complementary medicine along with the modern medicine. Along with that, it can serve the humanity. So there is a definite link between the modern medicine and yoga, and we are searching that link better and better with the coming time, with some very good studies which have been planned, and still they are required to have more benefit and more strength regarding this particular linkage between the modern medicine and yoga.
Thank you, sir. Now, my question to Dr. Tripathi. I have heard many times Dr. Tripathi while talking about the sympathetic overdrive. We are seeing in our country, number of youngsters are there who are having the sympathetic overdrive. We are seeing that across the society, aggressions is increasing every day. And India is the only country which is having 70% of its population less than 40 years of the age. So we are actually the nations of the young. And despite that, if in our nation, 35% people are hypertensive, then definitely it is coming up from the young generation also. So even youngsters and teenagers, those who are coming up with the raised blood pressure, raised insulin resistance, sometimes because of sympathetic overdrive, sometimes because of other reasons also. Can we really help them with yoga?
Thank you. Sympathetic overdrive is a part of biological evolution. Even you take the amoeba, the euglena, the most primitive cell, the fission process, which is a totally asexual fission, it's a binary fission. It starts from the stress. When you give the stress in the media, culture media, the single cell starts proliferating. And the energy is required as a substrate. So you require a carbohydrate, you require amino acid, and from anaphase, telophase, and then you have a multiple cells division, and then subsequently taking up. That's why the sympathetic overdrive is necessary for younger people to have more physical work, to do work in the field, to do studies. But when it crosses the limit, then it manifests into the disease process. And one of the important disease process with sympathetic overdrive is resting tachycardia. You cannot sleep properly. Even when the stress is gone, exam stress is gone, work stress is gone, you continue to have the tachycardia. Vagus nerve is one. You do simple Valsalva maneuver. Vagus nerve is toned up. You do Shavasana. That's one of the simplest asana you can think of. You just lie like a shav. It takes care. the systolic blood pressure goes down. And we published this article long back, 1974, 75, with me and my revered teacher, Professor K. Udupa, late Professor Udupa. We published article in Journal of Medicine and Surgery. At that time, we demonstrated there is a significant drop in systolic blood pressure. As you get midnight drip, if we get midnight drip, exactly happens when you do Shavasana and Shalbhasana. These are the two asanas in Yogic Kriya, which takes away your sympathetic drive, puts your vagus nerve on, and when you are not at work, when it is not demanded, then sympathetic drive is taken over. Another publication which came, and this is a publication which appeared in from Turkey, and this was published in Cardiovascular Diabetology Metabolism and Journal of Clinical. This is the very recent 2021 publication, which talks about high amphetamine turnover in younger people who have a systemic hypertension. And Yogic Kriya does leads to almost decapitation of this high amphetamine turnover. So we have a scientific evidences proving that epinephrine, norepinephrine, amphetamine, tyrosine, and monoamino tyrosine, all these four neurotransmitters, they are set at the lower tone, and thereby, and then subsequently we have about a lot of RCTs now, 15 uncontrolled trial, 2 cross-sectional studies on the parasympathetic drive, and which have proved that when you do these meditation, transcendental meditation, and you do some of these shavasana, then your sympathetic drive is taken care of. That would give a chance to also decrease the insulin resistance, and thereby also taking care of the metabolic syndrome.
Thank you, Professor Kamlakar Tripathi. Dr. Narsingh Verma, I would like to know from you that there are many instances in the literature where it has been suggested that yoga helps in improving lifestyle, especially in many health and mental disorders. And Gurudev also highlighted that once you practice yoga, then one of the side effects is that you are not going to be violent. And we know that many of the mental disorders, they have some of the symptoms which are linked to violence, and they push them towards the violence. So what is your opinion? What is the scientific opinion, sir?
According to me and according to the latest scientific updates, definitely yoga can be very useful in not only prevention, also in management of various mental elements, psychiatric disorders and anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, and that can easily be understandable, because that we know that our mood and affective disorders, they all depend upon the amalgam of the various neurotransmitters. And what is causing the disease is just alteration of the various neurotransmitters. Either some was decreased, another one is increased, serotonin level, dopamine level, acetylcholine level. All these levels are deciding our mental state, and yoga definitely, by augmenting the autonomic nervous system and also augmenting the synthesis and discharge of various neurotransmitters, anandamides, it can change the mood and behavior. So it is very, very scientific to talk about that yoga can not only prevent various mental disorders, it can also treat some along with the medicines which are being given. It will be complementary to them and help them to reducing the disease burden and also reducing the burden of pills by making the amalgam of various neurotransmitters into the right path. And by that, it can be helpful. That looks to me, and various other reviews are also found that by certain yogic asanas, yogic postures, yogic sentiments, it has been changed. The neurotransmitters and their level has changed, and that has been proved by various experiments. The experiments do not involve a very large number, but small numbers, the studies have been done. And because of that, I can say definitely yoga has a role in the management of mental disorders as well. Scientifically, I can say that.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Kamlakar Tripathi, you were asking about the older patients and the yoga. In the same line, I would just, as Dr. Anuj said, life expectancy has gone up to from 39 to 69 in India, though it is still less than our Western counterparts, where the life expectancy is still much, much more. And with the increasing life expectancy, we are seeing older people, elderly people with disorders like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinsonism, and they have limitation to do certain postural practices. So is there any evidence that yoga can be helpful in such people?
As I said in the beginning, there are certain points when we talk in neurology and neurobiology in relation to a degenerative disorder or a functional disorder. Now, some functional disorder starts little early. For example, dopaminergic fibers could be getting lesser and lesser functionally also. Like patient has only akinesia, patient has only dyskinesia, and this could be part of the Parkinson's disease. Patient can have a dystonic disorders or akinetic disorders in younger age group, and their neurons are quite intact. It's only the neuroendocrine hormonal system which is distorted, and it is the only response to the stress which gets bad. But in elderly people, there is a continuous degeneration. There is amyloid deposit associated in Alzheimer's disease. There is also neuroendocrine degeneration related to the various synapses, and also the receptors also get blunt. So if the patient has a cognitive disorder, he cannot listen, he cannot respond, his behavior is erratic, then taking them to the yogic exercises and the command becomes very, very difficult. So elderly people having a lot of structural damage, apart from functional damage, they are required to prescribe certain different yogic exercise. And Gurudev said rightly that you need a different prescription for it. And that prescription, along with the physician, that you shouldn't have a cervical vertebral anomaly. So you cannot do certain hyperextension, otherwise you will get paralysis. You should not have a lumbar disc, protruded lumbar disc, then you cannot do it. You cannot have a stroke, like if you get a massive middle cerebral artery involvement leading to the putamen and globus pallidus, and then patient have a movement disorder. Now this person cannot stand. He will tend to fall on one side. Cerebellar ataxias, progressive ataxias, hereditary ataxias. Now these are the some conditions where you cannot prescribe them physical exercise based asana. So you need them for a tranquility asana, maybe a meditation. So different asanas they have been tried, and there are publications. There are publications, at least from the, I have few publications in my hand, and I can cite these examples where they have shown that the receptor deletion to the metanephrine and the secretion in those functional disorders, if it has, it's like epigenetics. The deletion and the mutation on the particular gene, especially the methamphetamine and dopaminergic fibers and their receptor, is involved in some of the functional disorders. Now they can be corrected. If we can correct metabolic disorder, like epigenetics in diabetes management, we can also prescribe them a different prescription, a geriatric people, older people, and they would be doing equally better. So depression, basically, anxiety, number 2, bipolar disorder, and some of the cognitive disorder, which are not structural damage, can be managed very well, some of these yoga exercises. And we have a publication in that field.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly you explained. Now my question to Dr. Verma, that ACP in 2017 has recommended yoga as one of the options for the management of the chronic backache. What is your opinion about this kind of the recommendations? Are they really helpful? Do we have enough evidences for these recommendations, or we can do the similar kind of the recommendation in our country also?
Chronic pain recommendation we are talking about in Philadelphia conference in 2017. ACP recommended yoga along with Tai Chi and other type of treatment. Yoga was also said to be effective. And if you see in one of review, out of 25, 20 articles were favoring that, yes, yoga is effective in chronic back pain. That can be understood by the fact that in physiology, we all study that is, chronic pain has so many elements. And in that chronic pain element, yoga can be very effective tool by reducing the perception of pain and allowing the pain relieving factors to be increased. By that, the VAS score has been improved, and that has improved out of the 25 in 20 studies. In one study at KGMU, done at the Department of Orthopedics, it was published in Annals of Medicine, and it is has already told that definitely in the chronic back pain, yoga can act as adjuvant therapy along with the standard protocol treatment. It can be given, and it has got a very good effect and has been found to alleviate the chronic pain up to much extent. So I think the modern science also favors that yoga is the modality of the treatment for the chronic backache in those patients who are not responding to the standard therapy.
Which part of the yoga would be more helpful here? The part which is of asana, yoga asanas, or meditation, or other parts of that?
In most of the studies, mixture of it was used, because in yoga it is said that in the beginning you have to warm the body. So in the beginning, all the exercises remain same, all the postures remain same. Once it has been done, then the definite postures are beneficial, as Professor Tripathi has already highlighted that in various musculoskeletal disorders, we cannot go for all asanas. Only few asanas can be done. Definitely, which asanas are specific for the particular pain that have been used. And in beginning, even the pranayam has also been used in most of the studies. So it is the mixture of the asanas and the pranayam that has been used.
The similar kind of a question to Dr. Tripathi, sir. Yoga has been listed as a lifestyle intervention by ADA, Indian International Society of Hypertension, American Heart Association. All has recommended them in their recommendations, especially the non-pharmacological treatment as well as for the preventive therapies. How do you look over these recommendations? How are they connect the yoga's scientific part with the modern medicine?
I personally feel as the evidences are in favor, there are two publications. One is from Al Jazeera. This was the evidence-based complementary and alternative medicine publication on 2010. And this 2010. And one publication of my own teacher, Professor Udupa, in front of me from the Indian Journal of Medical Research. And this was on 1975, long back. Now, those patients who have got pre-diabetes, pre-hypertension, and whose HbA1c are still below, up to between 5.4 to 5.6, yet have not jumped into, whose fasting sugar is something like 110, between 100 to 25, and postprandial hasn't gone up more than 200. When we prescribe them lifestyle modification, probably we can de-stress, number one. Number two, we can also reduce the cortisol, which have been very well demonstrated in these two publications. And cortisol is an important component to initiate the metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance. So we can do there also. And also these patients in the beginning, when they are these physical exercises, these are the anaerobic exercises, decreases the glucose uptake into the muscle. And by that also they decrease the insulin resistance. So all the three components, the lifestyle modification, the physical exercise, the muscle exercise, and the tranquility, which cut down sharply the cortisol turnover and epinephrine turnover, they would add. But this is good during initial part of the pre-diabetes or pre-hypertension. The moment target organs starts affecting, then we clinicians should take cognizance of it, and we should try to avoid those exercises which might increase the intracerebral pressure, retinal hemorrhages if patient blood pressure is not properly controlled. There could be other problems related to, and there it is like a complementary to each other. We must screen and we help. It is good in initial part and maybe the early part.
Rightly said, sir. On the same note, I would like to ask Dr. Narsingh Verma sir, since you have very keen interest in the research, and you looked at you look at every disease from the physiological aspect, from the perspective of the chronomedicine, as highlighted by the Gurudev also. So, do we have any evidence that yoga brings out certain physiological, biochemical, and molecular changes when it is practiced? So, are there any evidences on that account?
Regarding the biochemical parameters, physiological parameters, various studies have included them. But the only problem we have in the research of yoga is that to find out the definite tool or definite physiological parameter, biochemical parameter, and have a very good statistical analysis and a very good study design. That is most of the time lacking. The problem is that most of the studies on yoga have been done by yoga people. They do not have much knowledge about various statistical models, various research studies, study designs. That is why most of the evidences which we have, the study design is not robust and the statistical analysis is not again up to mark. Because of that, and they have not been able to find out good physiological parameters. They are there, and if somebody has chosen them, very good effects have already been shown, like the galvanic skin response or galvanic skin resistance, GSR, can be a very good physiological tool which has already been done, and various autonomic tests like Valsalva maneuver, like the head tilt and other has been used, and when they have been used with a good research model, the results were excellent. But again, the problem is that most of the time the studies have been designed by those who are yoga people. They are good in knowledge of yoga, yoga postures, but they are not very good in study design. And if the study had been done by the pure science people, medical people, then they are not having good knowledge of yoga postures. Though you have to meet each other, the good yoga posture knowledge person or yoga specialist had to meet to the modern medicine people, good physiologist, good modern medicine people, then only we can have robust data. I'm very sure that if such type of studies to be done, definitely we will get very good results.
Thank you, sir. As we are want of time and we are already, it is 8:40.